And I see a whole army of my countrymen here in defiance of tyranny. You've come to fight as free men. And free men you are. What will you do with that freedom? Will you fight? Fight against that? No! We will run! And we will live. Aye. Fight and you may die. Run and you'll live. At least a while. And dying in your beds many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
You're at risk of dying. Know that the minute you're born, you're at risk of dying. So instead of enjoying the preciousness of the adventure that is your life, build a wall of protection around you. Just be sure not to notice how the wall that protects you imprisons you.
It's been months since I've done one of these videos. I'm back at work. A lot has been going on. So the 2-week shutdown following the voluntary distancing and closing of businesses that was mandated for flattening the curve was followed by now over 5 months of mandatory everyone must close their business if we tell you, run your business the way we say, you have to wear a mask when we tell you, and none of the different levels of government are doing this through proper regulation of the government acts that they are citing. None of them are being taken to court because courts themselves are being forced to not be in session, so they are really slowed down and bogged. I'm watching this not just in my country, Canada, I'm watching it around the world with a few countries like Sweden and to some degree the United States because of their particular traditions and constitution resisting this sort of fascism. So let's talk about your rights, where your rights end to feel like you don't want to get sick or die. Your rights do not extend to stripping others of their individual liberties under the Constitution of Canada and most Western nations just because you and 99% of the population believe that you should take those rights. It does not matter if you believe you're going to die. It does not matter. Because if you are going to suspend constitutional rights, there are always in the legislation very strict guidelines as to how this needs to be done, and it must always be done with a deadline. It has to stop at some point. And there needs to be criteria laid out for why you're starting it, why you're enacting the act under your constitution to create this exception. There must be criteria as to what the problem is, the solution that's going to be followed, and when it's going to be curtailed, when you think are going to return back to having a constitution that functions. So I'll give an example. Here in Canada, we have Justin Trudeau. His father, many years ago, when he was prime minister, went on the news, or sorry, not on the news, he addressed the nation, much like the president sometimes does. And he laid out why he was enacting what we call the War Measures Act, or used to. It was later changed to the Emergencies Act, or the Emergency Measures Act here in Canada. And there were 3 criteria he laid out that constitutional rights could be suspended. And he spoke about this to the nation. The first one is an external threat, a military invasion, for instance. That one was not at hand when he invoked this. The second one was a state of emergency, which meant that civilization, including government, could not function normally. That was not at hand. The third one, which was the one that was the relevant one while he was invoking the War Measures Act, which essentially is martial law, was because there was an insurrection which could be discerned and evidenced before the act came into power, before it was used. And these terrorists, the FLQ, had kidnapped members of the government and a foreign diplomat from the UK. And so they were attempting, their goal was to overthrow the duly elected government. And so after trying everything else and being petitioned repeatedly by the government of Quebec and the city government of Montreal, he finally relented and enacted the War Measures Act. And he laid out exactly where this was going to take place, how the military and police were going to be used, to what extent, and when it would end. He laid this all out very carefully and spelled out the dangers of an act like this, that the citizenry should be aware and keep an eye on him and his government as he did this, and future governments that would do this. Now, I think we're in the laziest, most cowardly generation that we've had probably in centuries, maybe ever. You know, with all the technology and how well we have it compared to previous ancestral generations, it's amazing to me how little people regard freedom and liberty, and how little they regard it in terms of they haven't learned where it comes from, how it was established, how we maintain it, what its importance is. I include close friends and family members. I've seen religious leaders turn towards supporting the government and throwing their own communities under the bus, attacking other members of the faith, leaders of their own churches, etc., attacking them for not complying outright and immediately. The fear and the compliance is disgusting. It smells. I smell it wherever I go. And as far as the science goes, I warned years ago about the politicization of science, and now we are seeing the beginning of the anvil being struck. Like, this is going to be bad. Government is citing authorities. This is appeal to authority. It is not science, because the scientists I'm listening to, excellent in their fields, standing on decades of work by fine scientists and institutions, cite that we're not just getting this wrong. The government is doing the opposite of what should be protocol for this type of a virus. We are being lied to, and at every iteration, the lie is expanded and the words are switched around. And I believe that people who have complied feel so rightly guilty that they latch on to the next lie in a desperate attempt to alleviate and avoid that guilt. If you are complying, I hate to break it to you, you are a fascist, because companies still worked under Hitler. Business still went on underneath Mussolini. This is fascism. The defining feature of a free society that is not fascist is the rights of the individual protected by a constitution. It is not general elections, because general elections represent a very important part of a free society, but that is popular, meaning the majority can rule over the individual or the small group. This is what the sole purpose of a constitution is, to allow it to go away over the amount of deaths that are literally comparable to a bad year of the flu, when so many of the numbers have been shown to be inflated, so much incompetence. But even things like the mask. You know, I didn't have to look very far, and neither would you if you had bothered, before demanding other people lose their freedom, to find out that masks do not prevent viruses from spreading. In fact, in many ways, they will increase it because people touch their faces. People feel that they have a sense of security. This is a mark of compliance and submission. So in traditional Islam, why do women wear face masks? The logistic reason of why this has been such an important part of this religion, which is really a political system, has been that it shows submission. It shows ownership. This is secular Sharia, people. If you are putting on masks and you are not sick and you are not especially vulnerable, if you are listening to everything the government tells you and you are endorsing, passively or otherwise, the stripping of individual rights and the banishing of the Constitution just to make yourself feel better, you are not a fellow citizen. You're a collaborator. You're an enemy of the state to me. And I will do everything in my power anything in my power to uphold our Constitution. So the time to choose is now, because the longer that you people en masse wait and sit on the fence, the uglier the situation will get. I believe that we have traitors, high treason in office, and these people are taking their directions from people that don't even live in this country. Wake up. So I'm back with my recordings. By the way, I am also doing my stuff with Smashlock on apostasynow.net. Our new angle is going to be talking to people about liberty and exposing the lies that are being fed to people, along with these daily fear pellets, these bullets that are being shot into you. This many sick, and how this stuff is complete and total trait bullshit. You people need to put on your vest of courage every day. Your glowing vest of courage. Forget being afraid. Forget just complying. Do research. Don't just go, well, I think maybe do some research. There are experts for you to listen to. Hear both sides of the argument. Let me tell you, in this case, there's an overwhelming winning side on this if you just listen to the science. And of course, remember your values as a member of a free society. Until then, I'm going to get some video, some film criticism stuff up. I have one that I already put up, but YouTube blocked it, a number of copyright counts. So I've got to figure that out. When I do, there'll be some entertainment on here as well. But right now, I got to tell you, stuff going on in my life. I've been moving. There's all kinds of stuff going on. I'm happy to be back. It's going to be slow but steady. Check us on our YouTube channel as well. Me and my buddy, Apostasy Now. And catch the last couple episodes that we made in there. There's a lot of good shit. It's better in video than audio, I think. But anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. It's 10 minutes and a little bit here. Maybe that's enough to keep your interest. I am ready to fight until they throw me into a prison or hang me from a tree. My liberties are not for your convenience, and I don't give a shit if you're afraid you're going to die. Just don't care.
Imagine the worst case scenario. In any given situation, imagine the worst case scenario that could happen, and then believe it'll happen because you thought of it. And then protect yourself from it. No, I'm not going outside. If I do, I'll definitely get COVID. Then I'd come home and infect my wife. Then she wouldn't be able to cook for me because she's sick. Then we'd have to resort to eating the dogs only for her to die 3 days later. Then I'd have to bury my own wife in the backyard. And I'd probably die on top of her grave, and squirrels would eat my body. I don't want that. So I think for the next 3 years, I'll be staying inside.
Criticize courageous people.
Get angry and criticize people who have the courage to do the things you're afraid to do. Your anger validates your fear.